President Joe Biden has named Vice President Kamala Harris to lead the first federal gun violence prevention office. The effort continues the administration's work to prevent mass shootings and homicides that primarily affect Black and Latino communities. I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Tonight. According to The Guardian, and let me show you the photo of Vice President Harris as I prepare to give you the details of this story. The Biden administration has announced the nation's first federal office gun violence prevention. In a statement released Thursday, the White House said the office will be overseen by Kamala Harris's office, directed by Stephanie Feldman, a longtime Biden gun policy advisor, and deputy directed by Greg Jackson and Rob Wilcox, who have led national prevention efforts through the Community Justice Action Fund and Everytown for Gun Safety, respectively. The creation of this office is a continuation of the administration's work on preventing high-profile mass shootings and local homicides that primarily affect low-income Black and Latino communities. In the absence of that sorely needed action, the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, along with the rest of my administration, will continue to do everything it can to combat the epidemic of gun violence that is tearing our families, our communities, and our country apart, Biden said in the announcement. Throughout his presidency, President Biden has used executive actions to regulate homemade firearms known as ghost guns, in the same way as traditional firearms, and to clarify who counts as a gun seller and thus is required by law to conduct background checks. Last year, he also signed the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, a sweeping piece of legislation that, among other things, tightens background checks and bolsters mental health programs. Every family in every community should have the freedom to live and to thrive, Harris said in the statement. We know true freedom is not possible if people are not safe. This epidemic of gun violence requires urgent leadership to end the fear and trauma that Americans experience every day. Biden has advocated for reinstating the national assault weapons ban and expanding background checks since he was vice president. A historic increase in gun homicides in 2020 pushed community-based violence prevention further up the administration's agenda. It's been at crisis level for a long time, and COVID-19 brought unprecedented spikes to cities across the country. Those spikes and his response to our calls for a new approach really took shape in 2020, said Fatima Loren Dreyer, the executive director of the Health Alliance for Violence Intervention, known as HAVI, a national organization working with hospitals to build and support violence prevention programs for gunshot wounded victims. We certainly need this sort of heightened awareness on the work and the need. So I'm very hopeful that this will be substantive and that this will make a difference and move the ball on the movement. Pardon me. And move the ball on the movement, echoed David Mohammed, the executive director of the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform. He and Dreyer were part of a chorus of Black violence prevention advocates and professionals who rallied for federal dollars, including from the American Rescue Plan, to go toward public health approaches to reducing shootings that are distinct and sometimes separate from those led by police departments and prosecutors. It feels great to see the Biden administration responding to young people in a significant way, said David Hogg, a founder of March for Our Lives and a survivor of the 2018 mass shooting at Merarity, Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. This is not a bill getting passed, but this has shown that President Biden is taking action. The administration's top focus was the pandemic, he added, and now it's time to focus on the next epidemic, which is the epidemic of gun violence. I'm Tyrone Bowman. Never surrender, never quit.